and I did my final briefing paper on the consequences of the death penalty. I chose this topic because over the last several years, there has been talks of it being unethical, and through my research, I learned that it is definitely unethical, and we should not be playing God with our criminal justice system. These 5 crimes are what mostly leads to the death penalty, but this one right here, capital murder, is going to be your number 1, along with attempted murder of a witness, juror, or court officer, most likely drug trafficking, and federal kidnapping. You take a child across state lines and you're looking at doing some time. Treason and espionage, those 2 aren't really heard of anymore. For me, this question posed who suffers the most from the death penalty, and my research indicated and proved that those of Caucasian descent do suffer more. If you look at it, you got Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, Aileen Wuornos. Most of your Caucasian serial killers, I'm going to phrase that, most of your serial killers are Caucasian. And then you've got your 33% of blacks, 14% Latin, and then the other 3 is probably like your Asian descent and those. The brief history is our death penalty was introduced in the 1600s, and it was really used in Salem witch trials, and even before, like murder and kidnapping, you got the death penalty for killing a chicken, or stealing one, or a piece of bread, or something as simple as a misdemeanor. And as the years progressed, it went away, and then in 1976 it came back. And in the 90s we saw a lot of executions, including Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Aileen Wuornos was in the early 2000s, and Jeffrey Dahmer. Those were big cases. I pose this question because if you look right here, every year it takes nearly $1.25 million in taxpayer money to house death row inmates, where it's compared to $45,000 to house an inmate who is serving life without parole. Now, to me, $45,000 seems a bit more doable than $1.25 million. And you also don't have to pay the death row inmates to have, you don't have to pay for life without parole inmates to have one big fancy dinner before they die. This question has also stayed in my mind for years. You say that they wait 15 plus years in prison before they even have an execution date, and that execution date gets moved several times before it actually happens. I think some people that have been on death row were on there for like 20 or 30 years, and with the new development of DNA testing, some of those were overturned because they were proven to be innocent. And then the best solution for the death row is just to completely eliminate it from our criminal justice system. I used to be always pro-death row, but through research and some podcasts I've listened to, we're not God. How are we supposed to say who dies and who doesn't? And then 3 main things that I learned from this class is criminal justice. The ethics plays a major role in that field, because you have one bad cop that can corrupt other cops and make for a bad department, and that bad department can have a bad name. Also learned that the death penalty in the criminal justice system costs an arm and a leg, figuratively speaking, $1.52 million. It's easier to just eliminate it. Go ahead and get rid of it and just do life without parole. And then lastly, I learned that it's extremely important to have empathy for your victims, because when you show empathy towards a victim, regardless of what they've been through, it's going to show them that you care and that it's okay for them to open up to you and not feel overwhelmed and hostile when having to do their interviews. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I look forward to seeing some of y'all at graduation. If not, good luck.